The day is October 27th, the day that Fnaf fans' dreams came true, where we finally got to see our fuzzy friends of the animatronics on the big screen in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. But it is now January 2024, 3 months after the movie release, well, just about to hit 3 months. And the question is, with all the magic and recency bias worn off, how does this movie hold up? And really, how good is this film from the eyes of the public? But in my opinion, I think this movie holds up fantastically. And that is, of course, going to be a biased standpoint because I am a FNAF fan. However, I understand when you're not a fan of the series or the games, this movie can, kind of diminish the enjoyment. But I feel like for me, as a FNAF fan, this movie is a perfect analogy on the FNAF storyline with a little bit of a twist here and there. And I personally think Blumhouse and Emma Tammy and everyone involved have done an amazing job of portraying this story on the big screen. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over as a neutral standpoint of what I thought was good in the FNAF movie and what I thought it was bad in the FNAF movie 3 months later, as I've watched this film around 10 times now. It's a bit excessive, but I feel like every sort of, recency bias or nostalgia or surprise and magic has worn off by now. So I'm going to take a neutral standpoint, not from a FNAF fan standpoint, and judge how good this movie really is. But if you do enjoy this video, make sure to smash the like button down below. Thank you all so much for the support in the last few videos. It's insane how much they've actually gotten support. It's crazy. Thank you all so much. But if you do enjoy this video, make sure to smash the like button down below and hit subscribe if you like the FNAF movie. But let's get straight into it. So we're going to start off with the things I really enjoy with this movie, and the first thing is obviously how the animatronics look. The animatronics comparing in the movie to the games are just identical. I think they have done such a good job. The Jim Henson Corporation have absolutely blown this out of the water with how good the animatronics actually look in this film. Like, look how good Freddy looks. I know Freddy, it's really hard to mess up because I feel like Freddy is probably the easiest, to portray. But even so, when I was rewatching the film just before recording this video, I was just mesmerized by how these animatronics actually look in person. It is insane, and they have smashed it out of the park with the animatronics. And the fact that that's how they done the original animatronics, I'm just imagining how they're gonna portray the next few animatronics in the sequel and the third film, because we all know there will be a trilogy with how much these movies are gonna make. But I'm just astounded by how good these animatronics actually look. Another thing I liked about this film was the pacing. I thought the pacing of this film was actually really well made. I don't think it was very boring at any stages during the film, in my opinion. I know there is some scenes that can kind of be a little bit dragged out, but for me, when I was just watching this as a neutral standpoint, I feel like this movie was paced really well. I thought the 90-minute mark was a perfect runtime for this film. Of course, if I was coming from a FNAF fan standpoint, I would have loved to see a 3-hour version, which was hinted at and, rumored around before the release of the film. But from a normal standpoint and a cinema experience, I feel like 90 minutes was perfect. Another thing that is perfect about this movie is the acting, specifically Josh Hutcherson. I feel like Josh Hutcherson absolutely carries this movie when it comes to the acting. Elizabeth Lyle does amazing as well, and so does Piper Rubio in her role as Abby. I feel like everyone as a star-studded cast done really, really well. And Matthew Lillard, for what he was in the film, the shortened amount of time he was in it, I think he portrayed a suspicious villain perfectly. I feel like even when you see the opening scene of him and with Mike in the the job interview room, you can see it in Afton's face where he's kind of like, oh, this is Mike Schmidt. You can see it in his eyes that, oh, yeah, I killed your brother, man, I'm gonna have to kill you too. And you can feel the energy and awkwardness between the two of them when they're having a conversation. So it's just really, really well done. I think the acting in this film is top notch, and honestly, it makes the movie so much more enjoyable. Another thing I really enjoyed was the kills. Considering this is a PG-13 film, I think the kills were really well made. I think the opening is really, really strong with the torture Freddy device, but obviously the main kill of the film is, Max with the bite of 2000 is what they're calling it. But that kill was so surprising. I did not expect to see that when it comes to a PG-13 film. The use of shadows was perfect. Also, the springlock scene I thought was really well done for a PG-13. I don't feel how they could have made it any better other than maybe a little bit more screaming. But then when it comes to lore of the springlock scene, there's springlocks in your throat, so the screaming wouldn't really, be realistic, so to say, or lore accurate. But Obviously, that's up to opinion based. I think the spring lock scene was really well handled, and in my opinion, it's probably the best they could have done under the circumstances. Another thing, quite short and quite a simple thing, but the cameos. As you know, for Fnaf fans and just YouTube fans in general, I think the cameos are really, really cool. Especially the wall of like Dawko and Rosbowski and 8-Bit Ryan and Baz all on the wall. That was sick. It was nice to see them in the film when the robbers come in and try and smash everything up. You see, I think it's Hank smash the window and glass of the employee of the month. That's pretty cool. Also, Corey Kenshin as the taxi driver, and then Matt Pat as the diner employee. It's awesome. It's just cool to see that Matt Pat got his theory saying in as well. It's just awesome to see. And also, I think the setup for Spring Bonnie or William Afton coming into the pizzeria was really well done. I feel like the setup was really, really, really perfect. The fact that it was really ominous of who this dude is if you're watching this from a neutral, not a FNAF fan standpoint. And when it comes to him actually taking off the helmet, and you're like, oh my god, it's the dude from the start of the film, I think it's really, really cool. However, I feel like even from a neutral standpoint, you would kind of have a feeling of, oh, they have Matthew Lillard as William Afton in this film on IMDb, but why on the desk when he's in the job interview scene does it say Steve Raglan? So it's kind of a little bit too obvious, but realistically, it was never going to be not obvious when it comes to Matthew Lillard being the villain. Let's be real. When he was in Scream, he was great, and he's too big of an actor for the FNAF movie to not have a, predominant role. And a little bit of a surprise, I find the fact that Vanessa being an Afton in this film, I thought it was a really good twist, because when I went into this film, I was so confused of what they were going to do with the son or sort of family of Afton, like who's going to be the son, who's going to be the daughter, all that sort of thing. And I feel like the way they've changed it from Mike and Abby possibly going into Baby and Michael Afton to then Vanessa being an Afton, it's a really good twist for any sort of fan as well, because it makes you as a FNAF fan think, what else are they going to change in the future? And that's a really strong topic, because now it gives a sense of excitement of what can go down, because now it's like, oh, anything can happen, for all we know, Ennard might show up and it could be something completely different to the lore, and that's really exciting, because when it comes to the FNAF storyline, there's so many possibilities, and the fact that this movie just completely flipped it on its head just creates even more possibilities. Like, there's so many things I actually enjoy with this film, and comparing them to the things I don't like, it doesn't even bother me, because the things I don't like, there's one thing I didn't like about this film that's a huge thing, and that's the lack of William Afton in this film. I feel like William Afton should have got a more predominant role. However, I feel like he will get flashbacks in the second movie. I feel like we're going to see a lot more of Afton in the second movie. I mean, I hope we do, because for that first movie, it is literally the definition of, oh, I'm Afton, I'm just going to show up for one or two scenes. He's genuinely only in, like, the job interview room, and then he's Spring Bonnie. That's all we see. So I feel like we definitely need a lot more of Afton. That is one huge gripe I had with the first film, but you know what, looking back on it, when I rewatched the film, it is okay, because it makes that, him showing up in the Spring Bonnie scene even more menacing, because you're like, oh my god, what's he actually going to be like as William Afton and not Steve Raglan? It gives a little bit more ominous to his character, and a little bit of, oh, what can he actually do? Another little thing I had with this film is the Aunt Jane storyline. However, we got the character Doug, so I guess it's a dub. But the fact that it kind of just came out of nowhere and it led to nothing, it just led to her being killed off by Golden Freddy. I mean, look, it's kind of out of the blue, but I like how it put more pressure on the character of Mike, because then it comes into his head of the whole, oh, what do I do with Abby? Do I let her go with Aunt Jane? Do I keep her? That sort of way. So I feel like it did, put a mental effect on Mike, and therefore leading to more character development for him, and leading him, the big reveal, like, of Aunt Jane being killed off by Golden Freddy, and then, Mike going all the way to the pizzeria after being attacked by the animatronics and going, no, I have to save my sister. It feels like it kind of was a wake-up call for Mike to go, okay, I have what I have, I'm not going to take that for granted. I lost Garrett back then, but I can still save Abby. It kind of was a wake-up call for Mike, and I liked how that worked out for him. Another little thing I had with this film, I didn't find this film that scary at all, and I feel like they could have done a lot more scares and a lot more scary shots with this film. I feel like at times it's just a little bit too colourful. I feel like the best scenes when it comes to terrifying this is Foxy down the hall. that sort of atmosphere when it's just gone completely quiet, especially when he kills Max's brother, when it goes like really flashy lights and then it goes black and you kind of just hear the flicker of the lights, and next thing you know, Foxy comes down the hall. I feel like that was probably the best scene when it comes to, you know, terrifying and really, really scary. And also, obviously, Max's death was really, really well made with atmosphere. However, the rest of the film I find very, very tame. I feel like, especially for a PG-13 film, they could have definitely achieved some level of atmosphere. I feel like the second movie, they could definitely achieve some horrifying scenes with the likes of, if they're going FNAF 2's route, they could use Mangle. With their Bonnie would be a huge one, and also the puppet. They are like, it's not even that it's just them three. They could use anyone from FNAF 2 and make it scary, but those three characters in particular, they could make some awesome scenes with them. Like I commented on my last video, imagine the opening of FNAF 2 being a security guard running out of flashlight battery and Foxy comes after him, similar to the first one, but he actually gets away in a vent until we actually hear Mangle's like muffled, you know, voice as he turns around, the flashlight starts working again, and Mangle gets him in the vents, and we just hear him scream in the vents, to where we get a pan of the pizzeria, this new pizzeria, as it zooms in on the puppet's box as the music starts to play, and then we get the title screen. I feel like that'd be a really, really well made scene for the opening of the FNAF 2 movie, and personally I feel like it would make it so much more atmospheric, and I think that's a huge possibility for the next film to be 10 times as scary. But genuinely, that is all the problems I have with this movie. There's literally like 3 issues and that's it. I love the rest of it. This movie, I love it. Like, I could watch this movie 10 times a day and I would have no issue with that. But that is all I think of the FNAF movie. Like, we're 3 months since release and I still find this movie really, really good. I know a lot of people don't, you know, enjoy it as much as I do, but I personally really enjoy this film. But let me know what you personally think of the FNAF movie. Let me know what you did like. Let me know what you didn't like in the FNAF movie. But I would love to hear your opinions in the comments below, and we can have some conversations and compare our opinions. And that's the best thing about horror, there's so many different opinions. But thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like on this video, and if you like anything to do with horror, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of January, and if you could help me in any way, shape or form, it would mean so much to me. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, have an amazing day, stay safe, and peace. First shot of this episode, Tammy picks this house.
Oh, what about that one?
Now, if you ask me, that is the, you know, worst house you can pick. It has wallpaper on the outside.